This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6 and verse 24. But the multitude of the wise is the welfare of the world, and a wise king is the upholding of the people. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. All right, I'd like to go into a lesson, on the benefits of the kingdom of heaven, not just for the Israelites, who consist of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians, but for creation in itself. All right, the scriptures talk about what happens when servants are given rulership and dominion. All right, this is Proverbs chapter 30 and 24. There be four things which are little upon the earth. Slakia. I want to jump up to verse 21. Proverbs 30 and 21. For three things the earth is disquieted, and for four which it cannot bear. For a servant when he reigneth, and a fool when he is filled with meat. All right, so for these things the earth is disquieted. And right now the world is ruled, as the scriptures say, by the bases of men. This is why you see so much misery, on the planet. This is why vanity and wickedness is celebrated and normalized, and righteousness and temperance is demonized and ostracized. All right, it's Daniel chapter 4 and verse 17. And it reads, this matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the bases of men. And right now the world is truly ruled by the bases of men. All right, as a matter of fact, let's go here. We're going to get that Hebrew word for bases. All right, so Daniel 4 and 17, the Hebrew word for bases is shapal, and it says low, lowliest, low basis, low in station. All right, and the world has been turned upside down. All right, as the scriptures say, let's get this. Ecclesiastes 10 and 6. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. So right now, the bases of men, or the low, are sitting in a rich place. All right, and the rich are sitting in a low place. So things have been turned upside down. Verse 7 reads, I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth. All right, and while I'm at it, this is Proverbs chapter 19 and verse 10. Delight is not seemly for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes. And what the kingdom of heaven really entails, outside of the blessing that the Lord promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it's also a righteous rulership. A rulership where creation can actually be enjoyed in its proper context, where morality can be established. As the scriptures say, intemperance will be at an end. Esau represents the end of an age. This age is an age of intemperance. And intemperance just goes into a lack of self-control. All right, the law, statutes, and commandments are not enforced on the planet. So you see a lot of misery because of that. You're always going to have elites. You're always going to have a ruling class. And it's a determinant on how good the life is based on how the rulers are. And right now we live in a wicked rulership, and it makes sense why everybody's in mourning at this point. All right, this is Proverbs 29 and 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And brothers go into this often. Every nation had a swing at it. Every nation had an opportunity to have dominion on the planet. you know, and nobody did it correctly. And the kingdom of heaven is important because the kingdom of heaven was prophesied to be a government that will never be taken down. It will never be destroyed, and it will rule in righteousness. All right. And that ruler, if you will, the governor, is the one whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus, whose name is Yahushua, the inheritor of the mountains, you know, which is the inheritor of the governments, with the mountain of the Lord being the government sitting on top of those hills, the other governments. This is why when you go in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, I'm going to read this in the NLT. Isaiah 2:2 in the NLT, it says, in the last days, the mountain of the Lord's house will be the highest of all, the most important place on earth. It will be raised above the other hills, and people from all over the world will stream there to worship. People from many nations will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of Jacob's God. There he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the Lord's teaching will go out from Zion. His word will go out from Jerusalem. The Lord will mediate between nations and will settle international disputes. They will hammer their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will no longer fight against nation, nor train for war anymore. And this is important, you know, because in the Christian doctrine, you know, what we were raised in, we had no idea what the kingdom of heaven entailed. It's only until you come to this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and you understand the scriptures precept upon precept, you see that the kingdom of heaven is going to be on earth. It's not some thing of everybody's going to be in heaven for eternity or hell for eternity. That the kingdom of heaven entails a righteous rulership that will never be destroyed. And through that, the world can actually be inhabited and enjoyed. All right, the Lord said he didn't make the world in vain. He didn't make it just to be ruled in wickedness and then annihilated. All right, this is Isaiah 45. And I'm going to jump down to verse 18. Isaiah 45:18. For thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, Yahweh Shemaushai himself that formed the earth and made it. He hath established it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else. All right, so the kingdom of heaven entails one that is profitable, with that profitable one being Yahushua HaMashiach. All right, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 4. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. And the kingdom of heaven is a profitable rulership that will never be destroyed. You know, if you think about our day to day, just to give a similitude to it, imagine mayors, governors, ambassadors, judges, all made perfect according to morality, according to the law, meaning every seat of power and authority has a member of the Israelites who is made perfect according to the law. Because the second covenant involves the laws being written in the inward parts of the Israelites, beginning with the elect, so that they can never sin. And this is why the scriptures talk about immortality, because the wages of sin is death. The nation of Israel are going to be made perfect according to the law, so they never go off. And the Lord's going to give authority. You know, Yahushua at the highest point of authority on earth. And then through that, a government. All right. And that government is going to be in all places, if you will. The other nations will still have their form of order, but they'll still have to answer to the nation of Israel under Yahushua. This is why in Isaiah the 2nd chapter it says they will mediate in international matters. So you're talking about a government of rulership that will never be destroyed. And it's being ruled by a nation of people that cannot sin. You know, and brothers made this analogy. It's like, imagine you can just grab any random Israelite and just throw him anywhere in the universe and righteousness is going to spring up. All right, and the reason I say that is this: Isaiah 61:3, to appoint them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. And just like you can't get apples from an orange tree, if it's righteous, the only thing it can produce is righteousness. And the Lord is creating, this is the process, right? The Lord is going to return the sons of God back to their first estate, but even better, because we're going to be made perfect. Lord willing, we be a part of that number. And through that, the world will have righteous judges, perfect judges, perfect in counsel, perfect in wisdom. And that will be the ruling class of the world to come. The government that rules over all governments under Yahweh Shai, because it truly belongs to Yahweh Shai. All things were made by him and for him. And the nation of Israel are joint heirs under that rulership. And through that rulership, the world will learn righteousness. They'll learn what is considered wicked and what is considered righteous. Right now, we live in a world where it's over leveraged with wickedness, meaning wickedness is normal. Wickedness is popular, so much so that righteousness and truth is a strange doctrine in a world full of darkness, where the Lord's going to turn things right side up. And righteousness, as the scriptures say, the knowledge of the Lord is going to cover the earth like the waters cover the sea. Then the world will be enjoyed in its proper context. You know, I always make this analogy. Imagine growing up in a world where you understand the hard questions. What happens to us when we die? You know, why is this made this way? Why is that made that way? And you have an Israelite in close proximity to give you the answer and the understanding on it. That's what it means when the Lord said, these are my servants. Because Yahweh Shai is the mediator between us and the Heavenly Father. And the kingdom of heaven, the nation of Israel, are going to be the mediators between the nations and Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. Meaning they're going to be able to give knowledge and counsel concerning the law, statutes, and commandments and the wisdom that pour forth from it. All right, let's go here. This is Revelation chapter 22:2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. You're having that righteous rulership under Yahweh Shai established. The nations are going to be healed through that. Yeah, they're going to go through 1,000 years of captivity, but in that captivity, even during that captivity, they're going to see how things should properly be done. And then the earth will actually be enjoyed and inhabited. As the scriptures say, the Lord didn't make the world in vain. It wasn't supposed to be ruled by wickedness forever. Just a revolving door of one nation rises to power and is destroyed. The other nation rises to power and then they fall off. But they all ruling in wickedness. Now, the Lord allowed this to play out so that the elect truly can recognize the importance of righteousness in the earth. Because after this, it's eternity, meaning a righteous rulership forever. The other nations are still going to die and be brought back forth, all right, according to their time. But they're going to understand it. They're not going to be hidden in darkness. And what I mean by that is they're not going to be lied to their entire life, and they're lucky if they find the truth. No, from a child, they're going to grow up knowing this is food, this isn't food. This is the consequence for adultery. This is what happens when you steal. This is what happens when we die. We come back in the third and fourth generation. Certain things are just going to be known to the nations. It's not going to be an assumption. There's not going to be a seminar to figure out these hard questions. That's why scripture said the law shall go forth from Zion. And the people are going to say to themselves, come, let us go to the house of Jacob. Let's go learn of their ways. And that's how the Lord, matter of fact, let me get it. That was the intent. This is Deuteronomy 4:5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great, who hath God so nigh unto them, as the Lord our God is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great, that hath statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day? And they're going to reach that conclusion in the kingdom of heaven. But before that happens, the judgment has to happen. Because just like in Egypt, they didn't acknowledge us as the nation of Israel, as the sons of God, until the firstborn were destroyed. So it took that judgment for them to recognize that. Well, the judgments that the Lord is preparing for the world today, when those things are accomplished, it's going to establish who the Lord's chosen are. Beginning with the elect. But eventually all the nations will come to the realization that the nation of Israel, our people as a whole, including 2/3 after they learn this through death by pain, are truly the nation that the Lord has chosen and blessed for a purpose, for a reason. You know, not just for the election's sake, but also so righteous rulership can spring forth. And the proof of that is the Lord saying that when servants are in rulership, it's not right for servants to have rulership over princes. And that's concerning nations of people. That's why the Lord told Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I made you a nation of kings and priests. There is a hierarchy amongst humanity. It's just the nation of Israel were put on the bottom as a chastisement, as a disciplinary action, not our permanent position on earth. And in the kingdom of heaven, we're going to be restored to what we are created to do, which is to rule in righteousness. And that's the balance of it all. The other nations are going to be in the kingdom of heaven outside of Esau, Edom. After 1,000 years, they're going to be destroyed. But the other nations are going to be in the kingdom of heaven. They're just going to answer to the nation of Israel. Just like in this world, they answer to the so-called white man. Maybe not directly, but they do answer to him through the banking system for sure. Because he has been given the power of the earth. Well, the nation of Israel, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians, under Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, are going to be given dominion. And it's going to be to the intent that the world is ruled in equity. All right, this is Ecclesiastes 11:6. Salakia, verse 5, many kings have sat down upon the ground, and one that was never thought of hath worn the crown. And while everybody's looking for the Chinese to take over, the Russians to take over, little do they know the children of Israel, the Lord's going to bring back our captivity, meaning he's going to end it and he's going to restore us under Yahweh Shai. And through that rulership, the world will be inhabited and enjoyed. All right, it's Revelation 5. And I'm going to jump down to verse 9. And they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. For thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation, and has made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on earth. All right, now I want to get that word reign before I close out. So we're going to go to Revelation 5:10. And the Greek word for reign is basilio, says to be king, to exercise kingly power, to reign, of the governor of a province, of the rule of the Messiah. All right. I'm going to skip down to part 2. It says metaphor, to exercise the highest influence, to control. And truly, Yahweh Shah has the highest influence concerning the world. It was made by him and it was made for him. And the nation of Israel are going to be joint heirs. Just like in the ancient world, you would have a king, but the king would have lords. And the power would be dispensed through different positions. But they all had to answer to the king. Same thing is going to happen. A government is going to be established under Yahweh Shai to rule. And that's what the kingdom of heaven entails, the nation of Israel being restored, all right, according to the promise the Lord made to their forefathers. All right, and it's not just for the sake of having the top spot, so to speak. You know, scriptures say life is more than meat and drink, roughly paraphrasing. Meaning it's not just to have the title and to have this music video-esque, a bunch of women in hot tub. No, it's for righteous rulership. Now, will the nation of Israel have abundance? Absolutely. Will the nation of Israel have big families, huge families? Absolutely. But what else does it entail? Righteous rulership. All right. Matter of fact, let me get this. It's Isaiah 60 and 22. And it reads, I'm starting 21. Thy people also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. And all of this goes back to the glory of the Lord. The Lord gets all the credit. And it's beautiful when you really look at it and you zoom out, right? The Lord chose a particular nation of people, molded them through the course of time to be righteous rulers, to be made perfect, to give them dominion so that the earth can be ruled and creation, if you will, can be ruled under his only begotten son in righteousness forever. Not just for the benefit of them, but for the benefit of the other nations. Because when you look at it, the other nations don't really want to have the number one spot. They just want their little piece of the pie, and they want things to be done with equity. The only one who really wants the number one spot, who covets the number one spot, is Esau Edom. And that's why after 1,000 years, he's going to be cut off, because there's nothing that they bring to the table of the planet outside of covetousness and violence. All right, so continuing, Isaiah 60 and 22, a little one shall become 1,000, a small one, a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time. And I'm bringing this out to show that the nation of Israel will have abundance, but it's not just about the abundance. It's also about the equity that's going to come from the kingdom of heaven and righteous rulership. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath,